Greetings, everyone. Well, it's time for another Comic Book Wednesday video. This time around, I've got an update for you with actual comics. Well, trade paperback collections of comics anyway. Yeah, so got a few new goodies for the collection. So let's not waste any time. Let's just get right into it. Comic books today on Comic Book Wednesday on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. Well, with the recent Disney Plus 6-part fantastic TV series that they did based on this, it made me real curious to check out the original comics of this character. I'm, of course, talking about Moon Knight. Yeah. Now, I knew that they had put out several epic collections of Moon Knight's early adventures a few years ago, actually way back when they first started doing the epic collections, but all three of them were out of print. But Marvel, being very smart, reprinted all three of them right around the time that the TV show debuted. I absolutely loved the TV show, by the way. Holy crap. Why did Oscar Isaac get snubbed at the Emmys? Like, I'll just never understand that. But yeah, loved the show, so really wanted to dive into the comics. Now, the comics had been recommended to me for many, many years, in particular by one of the guys who runs the local comic store here in town. Huge Moon Knight fan, and I remember him talking about it and just raving about it. He says, oh yeah, you gotta check out Moon Knight, it's so good. So when the show was announced, I thought, okay, maybe it's about time I finally check out some of the comics. It's a character I've been curious about for a long time. I did read his origin story, his original origin story anyway, which was a 2-part Werewolf by Night story, which is included in this, of course. But that was about it. I really didn't have much familiarity with the character other than what I'd read in that initial Werewolf by Night story. So I was really curious to dive more fully into the character and and the stories. In particular because the main artist for a good chunk of the first regular Moon Knight series was Bill Sienkiewicz, who's one of my all-time favorite artists from the 80s. I grew up with a lot of his artwork in the 80s when I was, collecting a lot. He would often do covers for just all the Marvel comics, and there was a few that he was also doing interior art for, one of which being Moon Knight. My introduction to Bill Sienkiewicz's artwork was actually, I think it was like issue 30-something of The New Mutants. He had a pretty famous run on The New Mutants. And I just always really loved his sort of raw, visceral, just kind of exciting style of artwork. It's a very unique style of artwork that is almost instantly recognizable as being his. And you can tell when other artists were inspired by him because they'll kind of emulate that style. But, I mean, you just can't beat the original. He's still doing a lot of stuff, too. He still does artwork. He still does comics. He does a lot of, artwork of celebrities and things like that. I follow him on both Facebook and Twitter. And he's just a really cool, like, down-to-earth guy who's an amazing artist. So anyway, I really wanted to check out Moon Knight because I know this was, next to New Mutants, one of the other big Marvel things that he did. What I didn't know was this was actually his professional comic book debut. Yeah, he did, I think it was a Marvel Spotlight or something like that. Anyway, there was an issue, like a graphic novel style issue they did of Moon Knight, of a solo adventure. And, or no, it wasn't that. It was Hulk magazine. That's what it was. Because Moon Knight was a backup feature in Hulk magazine, which was actually a color magazine format Hulk series that I think it either started as Rampaging Hulk or became Rampaging Hulk later. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. But anyway, when Moon Knight was a backup feature, it was just called Hulk with a capital, all capital letters with an exclamation mark. And it marked the first time that Bill Sienkiewicz had ever done any professional comics work. He submitted his work and got accepted to do these Moon Knight stories, partnered up with Doug Moench, who was just an amazing writer, and the two of them continued that partnership for several years through several more stories in Hulk magazine, and then a kind of a graphic novel style story, big solo adventure from Moon Knight, and then finally the regular series, which followed and ran for many, many issues. So anyway, this is volume 1 of the Epic Collection, and as I like to do when I talk about these, I thought we'd take a look at the covers of all the comics that are included in this particular volume. So this particular volume covers the years 1975 to 1981, much of the early adventures of Moon Knight. Specifically, it includes, well, in the order they've listed them on the back, it's not necessarily the order you'll be seeing them here. I'm putting them up here in the order they appear in the book. So we have Werewolf by Night, 32 and 33, that was the first appearance. Marvel Spotlight, 28 and 29. The Defenders, number 47 through 50. That is such a strange story. For a long time, they didn't seem to know what to do with Moon Knight. He got like a solo adventure in Marvel Spotlight after the Werewolf by Night story, and that's where they established a lot of the basis of the lore for the character and sort of what his deal was. But then they didn't revisit it for like many years. They just kind of bounced Moon Knight around as a guest character in comic after comic. He did this 4-issue stint with the Avengers, which, as I said, is just this really weird story. For some reason, I don't know what it was about the writer on that, or not, sorry, Avengers, Defenders, the Avengers from Wish. So he was with the Defenders for like this 4-issue story arc, and I don't know what the deal was with that writer, but the writer of that story, and just the Defenders, I guess, just seemed obsessed with beer. There's so many references to beer in that story. It's ridiculous. It's a kid's comic. Why are you going off about beer every 2 seconds? So the villain was like, here, well, I tell you my plan. Why don't you enjoy a nice, cool beer? Or, and it's about this villain who's creating these beings that are all based on signs of the zodiac. And he's like, oh, I wanted this character, I wanted to create this person to be my mate and my friend and just to chill and have a beer with. And then he captures Moon Knight and he's like, I'm going to drown you in this pool, but first here, have a beer. It's just like, and there's another guy who's just like watching everybody fight. He's like, I'm just going to have a beer and watch the fight. It's like, it's just beer, 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 all through this frickin' story. And I don't know what his obsession with beer was. Anyway, terrible story, but it paved the way for the solo adventures which followed. Moon Knight was also a part of the West Coast Avengers for about 2 years. Yeah. Those issues are not in here because there's already a series of West Coast Avengers Epic collections, and to reprint them again would have literally been 2 volumes of overlap. So, yeah, don't bother. Just get the West Coast Avengers set if you want to see those stories. They're all available now. Well, the ones that Moon Knight was in anyway. They got, like, I don't know, 6 or so volumes at the time of this recording. So, I actually lucked out with Volume 1. This is actually the first printing. The second, by the way, all the printings, all the reprints are out of print now too, by the way. I will include Amazon links in the description anyway if you'd like to get them. Sometimes they find a few in stock and you can get a good deal, or you can get a good deal through a third-party seller. But yeah, this one I actually had to get through a third-party seller, and it turned out to be the first printing, and it's in impeccable condition. I was very happy. So, not wanting to leave the story hanging there, I also picked up Volume 2, which is, what is this? This one's Bad Moon Rising. This one is Shadows of the Moon. Oh, sorry, I didn't go through everything. Well, you saw it, but I'll just quickly run down the list here. So we got Werewolf by Night 32 and 33, Marvel Spotlight 28 and 29, Defenders 47 through 50, Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man 22 and 23, Marvel 2-in-1 number 52, Moon Knight numbers 1 through 4, so that's the first regular series. Hulk Magazine numbers 11 through 15, 17 to 18, and 20. That's all of the solo adventures that they had as a backup feature in Hulk Magazine. There was one story that Hulk actually crosses over into that story. Really good one, but I gotta say the Hulk stories were fantastic, like the Hulk Magazine ones. That's where it really established Moon Knight as a darker character and more like what we would see in the regular series which followed. And then finally we have Marvel Preview number 21. That was the one. It's basically a graphic novel length adventure. It's like a 40 or 50 page adventure, 48 page adventure, something like that. Beautiful painted artwork, and yeah, I can just probably just give you a quick little peek here. So if we take a look, yeah, so if you take a look here, yeah, when it gets to the Hulk stories, we're getting into much more mature storylines. It's not just sort of the silly superhero fare that he was a part of for so long. It's actually getting into some much grittier stuff. He goes after this serial killer that kills people with a hatchet and all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, you can see him there, like running away with a victim. Oh, a victim which is his girlfriend, by the way, Mark Spector's girlfriend, and there's some like moments in that story where I legit gasped because it was just so shocking. But that's Moon Knight for you. I mean, it's intense stuff. So that's beautiful. And then we had where is it here? Yeah, then the Marvel preview issue, which was basically, it was like a high quality printed on Baxter paper. I think it was magazine size. And again, just all this beautiful painted artwork. So this is some of Bill Sienkiewicz's early work. It's really, really fantastic. And then finally, we get into that one proved to be quite popular. So then finally, they gave Moon Knight a regular series. Something interesting happened during this era. So we have Volume 2, which contains issues 5 through 23 of Moon Knight. So that's one interesting thing. As soon as they put Moon Knight into a regular series of his own, the guest appearances just stopped cold. It's like, nope, you were strictly in your own world here. I mean, it's still Marvel Universe, obviously, but strictly in your own story with your own thing going on. No more guest spots. So here's all the covers for those. But the interesting thing about this was it was one of the first comics that Marvel ever did that they offered exclusively through comic shops. So if you look, for example, if we take a look at some of the earlier issues here, yeah, like here, you can see how it has the square here for the UPC, or the Spider-Man face, depending if you got it through comic shop or newsstand. So that continues for a little while. And look at some of these covers. Like, some of these covers are just amazing. Well, I mean, you're going to see them there anyway. I don't know why I'm showing them to you again. But when we get up to, I think it's issue 15, if I remember correctly. But you can see, still Comics Code approved, right? So if it's Comics Code approved, that means it's newsstand approved, right? So we keep going for a little while. And then I think the first issue was... Is it this one? No. Hold on. Yeah, it was this one. Because this one, even though it still says... Where is it? Comics Code approved. You'll notice no box for the UPC. Yeah, because this was actually the first issue they offered directly through direct sales. So then, going forward, no more Comics Code approved, no more UPC box. Yeah, so you could only get Moon Knight through direct sales, which meant they were no longer bound by the rules of the Comics Code. So they could really cut loose with the stories. They still kind of held it back a bit. It's not like you just suddenly see cursing and blood and guts and boobs everywhere or anything like that. But the stories definitely take a more intense, gritty, visceral turn and get a lot more into the psychology of the character and stuff like that. They just go way deeper than they could have if they were, you know, restricted by the Comics Code Authority on the newsstands. So it gave them a lot of creative freedom to do the kind of stories they really wanted to do with the character. And boy, does it ever benefit from that. So you're in for such a treat. Like, this is fun. I will admit it is a bit of a slog getting through some of those early adventures. This is my bedtime reading for a good long time because it took me a while to get through them all. But then this one, you won't be able to put this down. It's just so damn good. So that's Volume 2. This is the reprint. I was not able to get the first printing of that, so that's the second print. And then finally, we have Volume 3, Final Rest, which for a long time was the last volume of Moon Knight that they had put out. And this contains issues 24 through 38. So the last batch of issues, and that's that. I mean, just look at these beautiful covers and in the interior art. And the interior art is every bit as good as the covers in this. It's one of those things. I mean, like look at this. Guy dead in a pool of his own blood, and the blood is forming the title of the story. Like, come on. That's pretty crazy. Like, it gets into some pretty intense stuff once they just kind of realize they could just sort of cut loose with it. So, yeah, absolutely amazing. Now, I should mention also, those of you who may only know Moon Knight from the show may be wondering, well, how accurate was the show to the comics? Yes, kind of. It is and it isn't. They took the characterizations of Mark's 3 personalities and definitely made some changes to them. In the comic, Steve Grant is basically millionaire playboy, kind of like Bruce Wayne. Jake Lockley is his alternate persona. They're not split personalities like they are now. That came later. But they're alternate personas. So Jake Lockley is his cabbie persona that he uses to kind of get the word on the street when he's like looking for somebody or trying to find out information about something. So that's his streetwise persona. And then you got Steve Grant, who's his well-to-do rich guy persona, so he can get into like exclusive parties and things like that. And then finally you have Mark Spector, the former mercenary turned superhero, essentially. Also, they do revisit the origin as it was told in Werewolf by Night, but from a different perspective, because the nature of that original origin story didn't quite fit in with the direction that they were going with the comic, so they revisited it, I think, in issue 4, if I remember correctly, and the interesting thing is the way they revisited it is it's still the same origin that we saw before, so it doesn't contradict it. It just shows things from a different perspective. So it puts a different spin on it, but in a very clever way, I think, that still fits in with the pre-established origin. So it's like it's a retcon without being a retcon, but it is, but it isn't, but it is. Just the brilliance of Doug Moench as a writer, what can I say? And he wrote the original as well. He was actually the head writer on Werewolf by Night. So, yeah, definitely a big fan of his work, I gotta say. He did some pretty impressive stuff over the years. So, yeah, so they don't really get into the sort of multiple personality thing and having it as... They do touch on it a little bit and kind of hint at it. I haven't finished reading the last 2 books. I'm about halfway through this one. So they're starting to hint at things like the connection to Khonshu and whatnot. But as far as I remember from just kind of researching the character a little bit when I was looking to get the collected editions, the whole thing about it being the 3 personas being 3 actual distinct personalities that are unaware of each other, that didn't come until later. In fact, there is a 4th epic collection coming out, which we'll dive into that. I think that comes out a little later this month, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so I have a pre-order for it. We'll see if I have the money for the pre-order by the time it comes out. But the 4th Epic Collection picks up right where this leaves off. For a while, Moon Knight was just kind of relegated to miniseries hell. There wasn't a regular series in sight for a while, so they did a bunch of miniseries which kind of retooled things once again, introduced Khonshu as more of a supernatural element influencing Mark, and also had the 3 personalities as 3 personalities, whereas in this they're more just 3 identities. You know how most superheroes have 1 secret identity? Well, the sort of catch here was Moon Knight has 3, but it's very meticulously explained why he has 3 and what the function of those 3 is. So they kind of start on that. So I don't know, they might go in that direction by the end of the original series. I don't know, I haven't got there yet, but I'm enjoying the journey so far. It's different but the same. So yeah, as far as the show goes, I really hope we get more. They were saying how they were only intending it to be a one-off miniseries, 6-episode miniseries, origin story, whatever, and then Moon Knight would be a once in a while guest appearance in other things. But it proved to be so popular and people liked it so much, Disney Plus actually did a survey saying, would you like to see a second season of Moon Knight? Needless to say, I clicked yes so frickin' fast. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Who knows what the future for Moon Knight is on our screens and perhaps in movie theaters. But in the meantime, we have a lot of comics to enjoy. So the next volume of the Epic Collections covers those mini-series appearances, which kind of retooled things further. And then the first few issues of Mark Spector Moon Knight, which was, I think, the longest-running series to date. It ran about 60 or so issues. And so I guess the next batch of Epic Collections are going to focus on that. But it's great to see Moon Knight finally getting some love, because I know this is a character that's been a fan favorite for a long time. I know a lot of people who've been huge fans of the comics forever. I've been meaning to check it out forever, so thank goodness for the Epic Collections making it affordable and possible to do so. And if you liked the show, or if, like me, you were curious about the comics for a long time, this is a great way to check them out, because everything is here except for the aforementioned West Coast Avengers appearances, because there's just too damn many of them. But everything else is here. And if you're really enterprising, you could get these and like the first, I think, 4 volumes of West Coast Avengers, and then in the middle of that is all the Moon Knight appearances. So, and then you'd have everything up to the end of the regular series. Alrighty, well, I think I've sold you on Moon Knight enough. I'm loving it, and if you liked the show or curious, I'm sure you'll love it too, because it's really some top-notch comics entertainment. Alrighty, well, that is it from me to you for now. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to tune in next Comic Book Wednesday, where I got a couple more Epic Collections. I've just been going like gangbusters on these this year. So look forward to that, and we'll talk about those. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Big thanks to my Patreon sponsors. Be sure to hit thanks if you'd like to support the stream or support the show in any large or small capacity. It's always appreciated. Be sure to catch me on Twitch. I stream just about every day. I'm trying to do weekly update streams here on YouTube as well, so if you just want to pop into one of those on Sunday, the Sunday update thing, please feel free to do so and ask me whatever you got on your mind, or sort of go over stuff that's coming up and things like that. So, trying to do those on a regular basis, because the one I did back in July proved to be quite popular. A lot of you seem to really enjoy it, so I thought I'd at least do a weekly update for you guys. But most of my live streaming, of course, is over on Twitch. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Until then, sayonara.